Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's Markets. Chris Blair in 15 minutes talking Tigers. I've got some key matchups in the ball game on Saturday night between LSU and Ole Miss. We'll get to at the bottom of the hour, but we'll start with the Saints here at 2 o'clock. Yesterday, if you were listening to the show, certainly appreciate that. I told you that I thought the Saints would probably start Jake Haener because the Saints tend to do things that create continuity. And Jake Haener had been there longer, and he was the backup last week, and it's just the easy thing to do. And then like 40 minutes later, they announced Rattler's starter. So that didn't age exceptionally well, but that's okay. Now we got that to react to.
We also didn't think they were going to announce it until Sunday.
I did say that too, so I was 0 for 2 there, and that segment just didn't really age all that great. But you know what? You do 10 hours a week, you're going to sound stupid probably more often than you like. So that's fine. We got the news now, and we can react to it now. Dennis Allen came to the podium yesterday and didn't waste any time, just said, this is our guy.
I'm sure you guys are all going to be wondering who's going to be the quarterback. Spencer Rattler will be the quarterback for this game. We talked a lot as a staff about what we felt like was the best thing for us and give us the best chance to win the game. That was the decision that we made, and we're excited about him getting an opportunity to go in there, and we'll let him go play and see what he can do.
And I think that I take Dennis Allen at face value there. I believe they looked at Rattler and they looked at Haener, and they got a great look at both of those guys in training camp and in the preseason. And they kind of knew what their plan was going to be if this happened. It's not exactly like this is coming out of nowhere. The Saints have had an injury at quarterback every year since 18. So this was not something that was completely out of the blue. And they decided to go with Rattler. And I think that there's a section of the fan base that'll say, this is the future of the franchise. They're giving this guy a shot, high upside. This could be it. I would suggest that the Saints are thinking about the next 4 quarters, not the next 4 years. That's just where this franchise and organization are at this point. And that's okay. You can be thinking about the next 4 years when you wake up on Sunday morning, but that's not why the Saints are making this decision. I think they truly believe the best chance to win the game is with Rattler. Now, Dennis Allen did expound more on that decision to start the rookie.
Yeah, I think we just internally talked a lot about it and felt like, in this particular game that he was going to give us the best chance to win. Both him and Jake both have been practicing extremely hard, preparing to be the starter. It was kind of the conversation that we had at the beginning of the year that Jake would be the 2 to start, but there wasn't going to be any, really basically going to be kind of a week-to-week deal. And we just felt like this was, for this game, was going to give us the best opportunity.
And I think that is probably a little vague for some people, but you got to realize Dennis Allen's not going to get up there and go, well, our offensive line sucks. Have you watched them? They can't block anybody. And Rattler's a little bit more athletic. So we think he's going to be under duress the entire game. And we're going to put the guy back out there that can avoid sacks a little more often.
Yeah, considering when he played for South Carolina, they didn't have the best offensive line.
They did not.
He was running for his life a lot.
And he got sacked a lot.
Yes, but he's used to that. So at least he has some experience in knowing how when the play breaks down, he knows how to get out of it.
And so that said, I think that they really believe Rattler gives them the best chance to win based on the personnel that they've got and the skill set that he brings to the table. Now, the question was, does this matchup in some way favor Spencer Rattler? Because you said previously that Haener was going to start as a number 2, and then you had a game against the Chiefs where you were down and you brought in Haener, and this is a new week and it's a new quarterback. Was it a matchup thing with the Saints and Tampa?
Yeah, I think we'll keep all those things internal in terms of what went into making that decision. But there was a lot of discussion, and we came out of there feeling like this was the best thing to do.
And again, I think that's a perfectly acceptable answer. I think that Dennis Allen came to the podium and told the truth. He said that Spencer Rattler's going to start. That's not playing it coy. He said that we've talked about it as staff. I believe that. He said we're not really going to get into why we think that. That's totally fine with me. I think all of that is very, very much true. And then Dennis Allen was asked if Rattler's the starter going forward.
As it's been all along, with those two, we're really kind of in a week-to-week deal with each one of those guys. So we're worried about this week right now, and then we'll see where we're at after that.
So let's talk about this week, okay? It's a short week, but not technically a short week in terms of on-field practice time. Tuesday is generally an off day in the NFL. The Saints were out there on Tuesday because you got to get ready to play. So it's not like they're completely compromised for time. If this were next week and you were trying to get ready for a Thursday night game, you would be compromised for time. But you're not necessarily, because you do have the full allotment of practice time. I heard T-Bob talk about this morning on his show, and he's completely correct, and he echoes every sentiment that I had when I heard this yesterday. This is not a very good spot to drop Spencer Rattler into. I realize that everyone's really excited to watch him play because he's the backup quarterback and he's never made a mistake. That interior offensive line sucks. It sucks. They are not able to handle the elite players in the NFL. They got annihilated a couple weeks ago on the interior by Jalen Carter. They got annihilated this past week by Chris Jones. The Saints cannot run the football against defenses like that, and that makes things very difficult on quarterbacks. They also haven't pass blocked exceptionally well. Case in point, Derek Carr is missing a couple weeks. You don't have Taysom Hill very likely to give you that change of pace, to take some direct snaps, to help in the running game. He's not there to help. That's tough. Rashid Shaheed did not practice on Wednesday. And that's not a huge deal when you think about Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed, but I would suggest that maybe the guys who have not played in live games yet with Rashid Shaheed would like to have some work with him. And so you look at the matchup and you consider the weapons that are there. This is an adverse situation at best for Spencer Rattler. And then you keep in mind that the season, while it's not completely on the brink, it's wobbling. And a fourth straight loss is going to make everybody super grumpy. So, you toss a rookie in there after the starter's been terrible and you're 2-8. Well, the rookie can get his feet wet in there and kind of figure some things out. This team still has aspirations. There are still some expectations. There's a fan base that still knows what it saw a month ago when the team started 2-0 and has thoughts that they could turn this thing around. But if you can't lean on the run game and your offensive line doesn't hold up great and your number 2 receiver's not healthy and you don't really have a number 3 receiver and your gadget guy's not there, I'm stacking reasons why this is not a great spot. That all said, I will allow for 4% of you to think, man, this could be the day the franchise changes. 4%. 96%, this is awful. 4%, I would suggest, what if he's really good? Because you realize in the NFL, and you just go through the franchises division by division, you've got first-round quarterbacks, high-pick quarterbacks across the board. That's who plays quarterback in this league. You've got your one-offs with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and Dak Prescott, who they snagged in the middle rounds, and Kirk Cousins was a third-round pick. And you've got some guys that have beaten the odds. But a lot of it is Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. And a lot of it is Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. And a lot of it is Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray and Matt Stafford and Jared Goff. These are the starters. All those guys I routed off were really high picks or the first pick in the draft. Patrick Mahomes went in the first round. Josh Allen went in the first round. You get the picture. Aaron Rodgers went in the first round. Zach Wilson went in the first round. Tua went in the first round. All these guys that you look at across the league were really high picks. The odds that you toss a 5th rounder into the fire and you find gold, ain't a lot of Tom Brady's out there. Just aren't. And you hope that Spencer Rattler's there, and that's why I'll give you those 4%. But if your expectations are through the roof on Sunday, I'm just trying to lessen the fall. This may be a little clunky, but it is hope. It is hope. And tomorrow's probably a better time to talk about how big a game this is for the Saints and how important it is for this season because it's vital. This is more of a Spencer Rattler conversation. You got your lottery ticket, and that's kind of what you got. What do you think when you buy a lottery ticket? Do you go start rolling up credit card debt? No. But you are ready to look at the drawing, kind of open that tab up and go, did we get this? And usually you toss it right in the trash. And that may be what happens here with Spencer Rattler. But maybe you get 4 of the numbers. Maybe not the Powerball, but maybe you get 4 of the numbers. Like, that's a pretty good payday. This is pretty good. We'll see. It's an interesting storyline if against the odds, right? That's kind of where we are with the Saints this week. And we'll talk more about the Saints and the Bucs coming up later on in tomorrow's show. When we come back, Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, is going to be with us. The Coach Brian Kelly show is this evening, and he'll be on the call for LSU and Ole Miss on Saturday night. Voice of the Tigers next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. They're a certified Generac dealer. That means they're a premier Generac dealer. That means they're among the top 3% nationwide in Generac home standby generator sales. Every single Generac home standby generator that they sell you comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. When you start that process with them, they'll understand what your needs are. How many square feet do you have? What electronics do you need powered in the event that electricity fails? Then they'll get you in the generator that you need. Every single generator comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. Every single generator is installed by a full-time employee of Boudreaux's Electrical. They don't contract folks out to do a one-off job here or there. Everybody that you deal with is a full-time employee at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. They're going to use the highest quality in wiring and tubing to get that generator installed, and they're going to do most of it underground so that it looks nice right outside of your home. And you know, this time of year, we may need them. Tampa needs them coming up, but we've been there before, and we'll be there again, unfortunately. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that even in those times, you're not going to have to worry about power outages. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com. That's boudreauxelectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
That time of the week where the energy anticipation starts to build in this city. Big game coming up Saturday night inside Death Valley. Top 10 matchup between LSU and Ole Miss. If you want to kind of get the juices flowing a little bit and eat some awesome food, check out TJ Ribs tonight for the Brian Kelly show. Chris Blair will be the host on the LSU Sports Radio Network. 7 o'clock is when they'll get things fired up over there on Acadian Thruway. Chris Blair joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
Doing well, Hunt. Doing well. Ready for the game. Football weather's here, the matchup is here, and it's going to be a lot of fun Saturday.
I had to consider some sleeves on my morning run this morning. You're walking out there at temps in the low 60s. That's it's a nice welcome surprise after 4 months of not that. But that means Ole Miss and LSU are right around the corner here. Bye week, good time for LSU?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just all indications, listening to Coach and kind of talking to some people at the building, it was a productive week. Typically it's rare you get these 2 byes in a season, and it's been a while since LSU has. And typically you're trying to balance that with a little bit of rest because most of the time it comes later in the year, But they took advantage of the week to try to get better and get out there and get physical. A couple of long, extended practices. They'll wait for the rest and rejuvenation, later in the second bye week. But I think they took a great deal of advantage of having that extra week to take some steps forward, which they're going to need against a pretty high-powered offense for Ole Miss and a pretty good defense. Certainly not your dad's Ole Miss defense, at least for the last 6 years.
What do you remember about last year's game in Oxford?
The inability to get off the field. I mean, as the game got later, Hunt, we were just sitting there thinking, you know what? Our offense is scoring points. Unfortunately, they are 2, and it may come down to a stop or 2, like literally out of 4 quarters, a stop or 2, forcing a punt, getting the ball back. I mean, turnover would have been great too, but that's just it. You kept watching the yardage add up, and you kept thinking, my goodness, I can't believe we're still in this and still have a chance, and of course had a chance late. But when you go back and think about it, it's like that's the head scratcher. You get 1 or 2 extra stops and get the possession back to Jaden Daniels, maybe, the numbers would have been gaudy anyway, but you would have gotten the win. So that stood out to me. And, the question I have this week is, a lot of Ole Miss's offense is back. Their defense certainly has improved. So, is LSU's defense better than last year against this style offense? I guess we'll find out after 3.5 hours or so on Saturday.
Do you think it's going to be a game like that on Saturday?
I think it has the potential to. I mean, I get a sense that, this could be another high-scoring affair where it comes down to which team blinks first and maybe which team blinks the most when it comes to turnovers or missed opportunities or, whoever has the better third down defense on Saturday. And I base that just simply on, the last couple of games, the offense for LSU, I think has been what we thought it would be. And they look like they'll be ready to go. And, playing this one at Tiger Stadium and that place being lit and it being at night, I don't think offensively, even if they're shorthanded on a couple of guys, which, kind of looks like it, that they're going to miss a beat. I still think they'll be able to put up points. I just think it comes down to, can they get some stops? Do I think it'll be a lopsided game either way? I'd love it if the Tigers beat the eyes out of them, but I just don't know if that's realistic.
Kentucky kind of showed a blueprint, but I feel like Kentucky and LSU are opposites. And I don't know that LSU can do some of the things that Kentucky did. And I think that LSU does a few things, namely throw the ball a lot better than Kentucky does. So is there anything that Kentucky did, I think probably in terms of time of possession, that LSU can try to copy?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, we have seen that a couple of times this year, even as explosive as LSU's offense has been. When you go back and look at it, there's been a lot because you don't have, without Chris Hilton and, again, without Kyle Parker, you haven't had a lot of opportunity to, Caden Durham's helped you do that in a play or two, but your receivers haven't. And we've seen some 10, 11, 12, 13-play drives, which I think that is going to be critical against a team like Ole Miss if you're able to do that. And Coach Kelly kind of alluded to that when he was asked on Monday. Yeah, if you can keep Jackson Dart and the offense off the field, that's a good thing in any game. So that'll be key. But, to me, Jackson Dart, and this may sound like the biggest overstatement of the year, but when I watched the Kentucky game, what stood out to me was that Jackson Dart was unable to hurt Kentucky in those critical third down plays where it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. And even though you think Lane's going to go for it on 4th down, Kentucky was able to keep Jackson Dart from not getting the big 25 and 30-yard gains, which he can do. They were able to stop him from getting the 4 and 5-yard gains. And therefore it set up possibly 4th and long or possibly a turnover on downs. To me, that's kind of the linchpin in this whole deal. Sure, if Trey Harris is ready to go, then he's going to be a problem. If their running backs are ready to go, they're going to be a problem. But to me, when you watch Ole Miss, when Jackson Dart can bail his offense out and scramble, extend the pocket, can't throw the ball, and then scampers 6, 8, 10 yards, picks up a first down, that's when Lane licks his chops and goes, okay, let's go to Harris for 40 yards. And when that rhythm is taken away, which I thought Kentucky did a good job of, I don't think that big play, chunk play potential is as strong as they are when Dart's able to just keep getting first downs and moving the chains.
I was listening to an Ole Miss podcast. Chase Parham and Neil McCready do a great job covering the Rebels, and I was trying to pick out on a few things from them. And Chase gave a stat. I can't back it up because I don't know where you can find it, but he said that Jackson Dart in the last 2 weeks is 3 out of 17 on balls that travel 20 yards in the air. And when I think of Ole Miss's offense, I think of those huge explosive plays, and they just haven't necessarily hit them. And they hammered South Carolina because their defense played so well, and Lenora Sellers couldn't hurt them through the air. But they haven't been as explosive the last 2 weeks, and that would be a welcome sight for LSU.
No, I don't know. I haven't heard that stat, but I can believe it based on the last 2 weeks. Because, again, I think when they get out of rhythm and they get off schedule, they're not as effective. I mean, they're so effective when they're running the ball successfully, spread the field to run it. Therefore, eventually they just force teams to kind of stack the box, and then, boom, they hit the big one. I mean, he's been doing that everywhere he's been. That's kind of the MO. And you think of those chunk plays, but when I think of Lane Kiffin, I think of a team that wants to run it so that you have to commit to the run. And then this year he's got with Harris and obviously Jackson Dart, when he's got that type of weaponry on the outside, then you can see those plays. But I think in a nutshell, if you take away the ability to run the ball effectively, I think you're going to see less explosive games or plays in the passing game. And I'll be interested. It's one of the questions I'm going to ask Coach Kelly tonight and get his thoughts on, what's the best way to attack it and see if I'm anywhere inside the ballpark.
I'm curious how LSU's offensive line responds. I didn't think they had their best day in Columbia, South Carolina against a couple really good edge rushers, and Ole Miss has got some really good players on the defensive front. Do you trust those guys on LSU's offensive line to step it up and control the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to if Ole Miss has success like they did against South Carolina, for the most part, rushing 4, sometimes 5, but not necessarily all-out blitzes. And, I like LSU's chances if that's the case. Again, I think those guys on the edge for Ole Miss are good enough. They're going to make some plays. But I trust this LSU line, especially in pass protection. But the other side of that is, if indeed Ole Miss starts this game thinking, you know what, we think we can just bull rush this offensive line with sending 4, and then we're not going to let these guys attack us on the outside in the passing game, then I think the running game for LSU becomes the most important factor in this entire contest. And again, you kind of want to force Ole Miss to have to commit to the run, and I think that's why, the same way I think it's important for Ole Miss to be able to run the ball to kind of get in the rhythm of their offense, I think LSU, if indeed they, don't rush 4 or they send blitz, I mean, you got to be able to hurt them with the running game, something that, again, has gotten better over the last couple of weeks, but I don't think it's quite where LSU wants it to be just yet.
I know Coach Jay Johnson's going to join me on the pregame show. Do I have the authority to scrap the SEC scoreboard, the national scoreboard, keys to the game, as well as the recorded interview, go 90 minutes with Coach Johnson, or are we going to veer away from that?
I promised Bill Franquez it would be 10 mints, and he said, really? I said, well, probably not. Probably going to be a little longer than that, but I know that'll be fun. I'm excited to have Jay join you at Tiger One there at the Bud Light Fan Zone, because I had a chance to go and listen to him yesterday for his kind of media before the scrimmages start. And, you got to be, I mean, obviously we're all optimistic about this upcoming team, but he really is optimistic. And I kind of took the tone from him that this is could be the potential to have a really exciting year. So I'm looking forward to hearing him talk to you tomorrow.
I'm very much looking forward to that as well. They're going to throw their first pitch of the fall in 90 minutes out there at the box. We'll let you get back to work, get you to TJ Ribs tonight, Chris. We'll see you on Saturday. Thanks.
You got it, Hunt. Thank you.
He's Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, LSU Sports Radio Network. Again, Brian Kelly show tonight at TJ Ribs, 7 o'clock. If you want to swing over there and get something to eat, listen to Coach talk. Always an enjoyable time there at TJ Ribs here in Baton Rouge. Take a time out when we come back. There's some key matchups I want to talk about with this LSU and Ole Miss game. I've identified 3 of them. I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net. We'll get to those coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. It's an incredible organization over there at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton has put together an amazing team, and they're just determined to get you back to being your active self. I know a lot of times people have subpar experiences in physical therapy. They've been hurt, they're in pain, go see the doctor, and maybe the doctor refers you here or there, whatever the case may be, and you show up and they're just not quite as hands-on. You may not feel like you've been a priority for the physical therapy team, wherever the case may be. That's never going to be the case at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. From the time you walk in to the time you leave, you're going to have a teammate assigned to you that is making sure you're meeting some benchmarks, feeling better, and eventually getting back to your active selves. They have a way to measure that. The isokinetic testing they do over there at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports shows the returning strength in your muscle groups as you return from injury and all that pain. You've also got dry needling, cupping, you can do scraping, a lot of different things, soft tissue manipulation, all to make sure you're getting better and getting back to your active self. Whether you're a runner in his or her 40s, a youth athlete, or somebody who wants to play golf every day when you're in your 60s or early 70s. If you're in pain and you want to be active and you can't because of that pain, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is where you need to go. Check them out online at evolvept.com. Stop by Starring near Highland Road. That's Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Shout out to the folks over at Rouse's. Rouse's, this feels like home. Matchups to watch, LSU and Ole Miss coming up on Saturday night. I'll get on to the field as far as the players go with my second and third matchups, but I really do believe that this first matchup is just vital to this game, and it's Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. moving the chess pieces against Blake Baker. LSU last year simply could not line up and know where to be. And Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. absolutely cooked LSU 6 ways from Sunday on almost every play. They had 706 yards. They averaged 8 yards per play on 88 plays. They had 8 plays over 20 yards and 5 touchdowns over 10 yards. It was not even hard. And Jackson Dart was out there, and Trey Harris was out there, and Henry Parrish was out there, and Priest Corn was out there, and like a lot of Ole Miss's skill players were out there. And Savion Jones was out there, and Greg Penn was out there, and Whit Weeks was out there some. And Zy Alexander, Sage Ryan, Major Burns, like a lot of these guys are the same. And I realize that this is a little bit of a vague matchup to watch, but Blake Baker's job is to make sure that LSU is in the right place. Like, if Jackson Dart throws a ball up and Trey Harris or one of the Ole Miss receivers goes up and high points it, that's going to happen against these LSU DBs. They haven't played the ball exceptionally well. That's just part of it. If Lane Kiffin gets a bunch of guys running seam routes and there's nobody in the vicinity, well, that's again, this staff is not having guys in the right place. And they didn't early on in the season at times, but they have the last 2 weeks. And if LSU can make Ole Miss do it while covered, do it with guys in their run fits, then I think the Tigers have a chance to slow things down. Kentucky and South Carolina did. Ole Miss did not go all up and down the field on South Carolina. And I'll tell you this, Trey Harris is going to go early in the NFL draft. The rest of these guys aren't. Like, they're just not. You're talking about a bunch of wide receivers that average less than 3 catches a game. Quinshon Judkins is gone. Priest Corn's a fine SEC tight end. Parrish is a decent running back. Ulysses Bentley is on a milk carton. Like, the guys that cover Ole Miss don't even know why he's not playing. Logan Diggs isn't ready to play it. Like, they don't have a ton of NFL guys on that offense. What they have is an elite mind moving the chess pieces and a quarterback who understands what he's doing. And that was enough last year, and usually is enough for them, far more often than it's not, to score a bunch of points. But Blake Baker's got to get LSU in the right place. I know they've been coaching it. We did a whole segment in the first hour, me telling you what the players are telling us on Tuesday. They know that Ole Miss wants to play fast. They're preparing for it 2 different ways. They know you can't celebrate on defense. They know that Ole Miss is not just going to settle for a punt on 4th and 2. Like, they've got to know where to be, and that is the first huge matchup in this game. Blake Baker getting his guys in position. We'll switch sides of the ball. We'll go to the Ole Miss defense against the LSU offense. Ole Miss has dudes at defensive tackle. Y'all know Walter Nolan at this point. Unanimous 5-star when he signed at A&M. J.J. Pegues is a freak of an athlete. He's got 6.5 tackles for loss and 4 rushing touchdowns this year. That's correct. 6.5 tackles for loss and 4 rushing touchdowns. He's 315 pounds, and they snap him the ball in a direct snap. Like, he is a freak athlete. And those 2 guys man the middle. And DJ Chester has had his problems this year. And if DJ Chester can't line up and hold his own, I'm not telling you to flat back Walter Nolan 13 times in this game. I'm not telling you to reestablish the line of scrimmage against J.J. Pegues 5 yards down the field like LSU in the Les Miles days playing ULM. You got to hold your own. You can't let these 2 guys blow everything up. And they can do that on the interior. I know that Ole Miss leads the country in sacks. I know that Princely Umamiele has had a huge year. He may or may not play. I know that they've got other guys like Ivy who have been really good. Perkins has been awesome for them. He's kind of like Harold Perkins light, and he's been in the backfield making a ton of plays. Like, they've got dudes on the edge as well, and they're aggressive. As I said, entering the South Carolina game, if I can't trust LSU's 2 tackles to block, well, then nothing's going to work, okay? Like, if you can't trust the best guys on your team, then you're going to lose. So I'm just going to assume that LSU is going to hold up there, and then I'll go to some of the areas that I perceive to be weaknesses and see how LSU can hold their own. If LSU keeps Pegues and Nolan from making 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks, and keeps Nussmeier upright and establishes some modicum of a running game, they're going to be okay. But my concern is right there on the middle. It's Dellinger, it's Frazier, it's Chester on those monsters in the middle for Ole Miss. If those guys are feasting in the backfield, it's trouble for LSU. If those guys are kept at bay, Nussmeier will pick on this Ole Miss secondary. It's not that great. Trey Amos out there is a pretty good player. They got him in from Alabama. He gets some pass interference calls, but he's a pretty good player. They don't really have much else in the way of NFL talent in the secondary. And I know that Chris Hilton's probably not going to play, and I know that C.J. Daniels is now doubtful to play, and I know that Kyle Parker's out for the game, but I'm okay with LSU going out there with Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson and Xavier Thomas and Mason Taylor, basically, and going to work. I don't think you're going to see a ton of Shelton Sampson. We'll see if Trey Green has got a package to come in there, if Pimpton needs to play a little bit. But LSU is going to be fine on the edges. It's Ole Miss's line creating issues for Nussmeier, who, oh, by the way, made some bad decisions against South Carolina. That is a huge, huge piece to this puzzle in this game. LSU's interior offensive line has got to come to play. And then the last piece here is Ole Miss's offensive tackles. Jaden Williams has been their starter at left tackle, or was to start the season. He's out. He's not going to play. So Diego Pounds has played left tackle the last 2 weeks. And then Micah Pettis is Ole Miss's right tackle, and that's going to be their bookends in this game, the same thing that they were at South Carolina, and they did an okay job. Pounds transferred from North Carolina. He was a starter there, and Pettis has started 23 games at Ole Miss. Kentucky whipped Ole Miss at the point of attack with its defensive line. They got 4 sacks. Dylan Stewart did a good job against South Carolina. He got back there for a sack, but LSU's pass rush needs to be its identity on offense. If you ask for Zy Alexander and Ashton Stamps and P.J. Woodland and Sage Ryan and Deshaun Spears and J.K. Johnson, if you ask those guys to run around with Ole Miss in this scheme for extended periods of time, big trouble. But if Braden Swinson, Deshaun Womack, or Savion Jones comes ripping off the edge and makes a play on Dart, strip sack, forced early throw, tipped ball, third down sack, those are game changers. Those are crowd energizers. And LSU simply must have 3, 4, 5 of those in this game. Baker's going to get aggressive. They're going to try to get into that prowler package when they have opportunities there. It's going to have to be 3rd and long for that. But you've got to have your ends against a backup left tackle and an okay right tackle bend the edge and make some plays on Dart. If he's got time, you got issues. If he's got time, you've got issues. But I believe LSU's pass rush is good. And I watched Kentucky get back there and make life miserable. Now, a lot of that was from the interior, and I don't think LSU does a ton of that. I don't think Gio Paez gets a huge push here. I don't know that Ahmad Bro is ready to take over a game like Chad Lavallee or Glenn Dorsey or Michael Brockers could do. But on the edge, I think he got a chance. And I don't think Ole Miss's tackles are ticketed for the first round of the NFL draft like LSU's are. So if you can get back there and force, you don't have to get 8 sacks or take over the game. You just have to get them at opportune times to energize the crowd, maybe get a turnover, flip the field, stall a drive, whatever the case may be. Again, no one's asking Blake Baker in my first key here or the pass rush in my second key and my third key here to hold Ole Miss to 17. Kentucky did. I'm not asking you to do that. LSU's going to score more than 20 like Kentucky did. I'm asking you to make some game-changing plays, stall some drives, hold Ole Miss under 30 points, and then see where the dice fall. But those are the 3 matchups that I find to be huge in this ball game. It's Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. against Blake Baker. It's Ole Miss's defensive tackles on LSU's interior offensive line. And it's Ole Miss's offensive tackles against the edge players for LSU. Those 3 matchups, I believe, likely tell the story of how this game goes. We've still got plenty to chew on for the remainder of the next 48 hours. And plus, I've got 2 hours on this show and then 90 minutes on the pregame show. Those are the ones that I'm kind of boiling it down to. By the way, if you're going to be hanging out with us tomorrow on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, I'll let you know our Football Fridays are always early to late. We got 7 o'clock start for Off the Bench, 10 o'clock live at lunch, an early start there. Guys will be at Rufino's from 10 to 1. I'm with you from 1 to 3 from Lod Cook tomorrow. Looking forward to some really exciting guests. We're going to have Brad Davis, who, of course, caught one of the most famous touchdowns in LSU history against Ole Miss from Burt Jones back in the 70s. He'll jump aboard with us. Eddie Kennison's going to be with us as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun on the show tomorrow. Matt's going to be from 3 to 6, and then that'll lead right into Cade Wasson and his cast of thousands at 6 o'clock for a Louisiana Prep preview. Catholic High football at 6:45, and then at 10 o'clock they come right back to you with Louisiana Prep scoreboard. So from about 7 a.m. to midnight tomorrow, we will be wall-to-wall local and football heavy. Very much looking forward to all of that. When we come back, we will close out a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. We know where we live. Where we live means insurance is important for multiple reasons. We know there are hurricanes. Those are kind of condensed down into a 3-month span. But auto insurance is incredibly important as well, and it can be really expensive. If all you know as a business owner is that your auto insurance is expensive, maybe you should know more. Who makes sure that all your trucks are covered? Who makes sure you've got the proper limits? Who makes sure that the umbrella limits are adequate for the line of work that you're in? Who makes sure that your property and building evaluations are done the right way so that you don't get hit with co-insurance penalties when a hurricane rolls through? If these are questions you may not know the answer to, I don't know that your broker is doing the right job. Highland Insurance Group will do that job. Jonathan Carver and his team will do that job. Think of them as a trusted partner, like your attorney who you would go to in time of need, like your CPA when you got to know what's going on. Your insurance broker should be the same. It shouldn't necessarily be the guy that calls and says, hey, man, what do you do? I bet I can cut that down 10%. That can be dangerous. I know we like to talk about premiums. That may be the most important thing to you as a business owner day in, day out. But is it right? Jonathan Carver and his team will make sure that it is the Highland Insurance Group. They can also handle your group or employee benefits. It's your one-stop shop for all things insurance. Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. HighlandIG.com. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Congratulations to Brian Murray of Ponchatoula. Brian is our draw to 100 winner in the sweepstakes presented by Shell, and wins Stadium Club seats to the Ole Miss game, sideline passes, and autographed memorabilia. Thanks to all participating in our draw to 100 sweepstakes presented by Shell, the rhythm of Louisiana.
All right, shout out to the folks over at Rouse's. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. Always got great specials over there at Rouse's. This week is no exception. Get USDA prime beef whole boneless ribeye, $11.99 a pound. You're saving $8 a pound on ribeyes, USDA prime at Rouse's. Get on over there and check that out. Sanderson's Farm chicken drumsticks or chicken thighs, value packed, 88 cents a pound. You're saving about half off there. 24-pack of Rouse's half-liter drinking water, 3 for $9. So you buy 3, you save almost $3. Plus, looking to do red beans and rice, 1-pound bags of beans, 2-pound bags of rice, 99 cents. You're saving up to $1 there. Rouse's is the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. All your tailgate supplies, they got you covered at Rouse's. And, of course, the one at Burbank and Lee houses our game day show each and every week when LSU is at home or away, as long as it's not at 11 o'clock in the morning. Then they got to do post game from there. But we always appreciate the folks over at Rouse's. If you're in South Louisiana, there's always a Rouse's near you. All right, Beck, it's time to take a little take it or leave it.
All righty, first one here, an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Shams Charania said he believes the Pelicans will start Herb Jones at the 4 or 5 in most lineups this season. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. I mean, Herb Jones at the 5? What do we... So he's guarding the 2 or 3, but he's playing the 5? So Zion is the 0.4? This is... I understand we're in an era of positionless basketball, but I got to have somebody that's 6'11" down there doing something.
Yeah, so what people are suggesting is that the lineup will be DeJounte Murray, good. CJ, B.I., Zion, and Herb.
That's not a functioning lineup.
We'll see.
That doesn't work. I mean, who's guarding the 5?
It's got to be Herb. I mean, Herb is 6'8". He's not very big, but he
usually guards the best wing.
He does. So it's going to be maybe Zion
ain't doing that.
Maybe Zion, I guess. We'll see. I don't know.
It's not gonna work. I don't. That's
Look,
just. No one's calling me for my NBA defensive alignment expertise. That is not going to work.
I don't disagree with you really that much, but look, if Shams is, I don't think Shams would come on Pat McAfee show and just say this without any kind of knowledge or intelligence about it. So I have to think that they're going to run that lineup out at some point. So we'll see what happens when the season actually kicks off in a couple weeks here. But next one, a company founded and fronted by Kendrick Perkins is offering college and high school athletes upfront money in exchange for a portion of their NIL earnings. That doesn't sound shady at all. Experts say the deals resemble high-interest loans and could be taking advantage of players. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that real quick. That sounds real bad.
Kind of sounds like the music industry where they sign these kids and they don't really know the contract details and they basically take all the money from them.
Look, I don't know Kendrick Perkins. I'm not here to tell you that he's out with bad intentions here, but that business model seems real flawed to me. We'll give you some money. Give us some percentage. Yeah, you're looking like 20%. We'll give you $50,000. No.
Doesn't sound very good. Next one here, with Spencer Rattler being named the starter for the Saints this week. Every one of Lincoln Riley's quarterbacks since he became a head coach in 2017 is currently starting in the NFL. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler, and Caleb Williams. Take it or leave it.
That's hard to argue with. You got to take that. That's really impressive. He's got his flaws, and they're not that great again this year again. And that stinks for LSU because you just got to win that game.
Yeah.
But that's impressive to have every guy that you recruit, bring in, and develop in college to start games in the NFL. I mean, LSU went years without guys starting in the NFL, and LSU's a premier level program. There aren't that many starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and for one guy to have that many is damn impressive.
I just guess it just goes to show all of his inefficiencies at every other position besides quarterback. Next one, the Mets knocked the Phillies off. Okay, I was trying to read it. I was trying to read it a different way for some reason instead of the way you wrote it. But anyway, the Mets won the series. They're going to the championship series. They go for a pennant here. They're going to win the whole thing. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I don't want any part of the Mets. They think they're good. Lindor's insane. Alonso's now hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and they're getting really good outings from Jose Quintana. And he was not good when the Cubs traded for him in 2017.
No, not really.
So that's been 7 years. So they got a mojo going that I don't think anybody wants to mess with. I realize that the Arizona Diamondbacks turned into a pumpkin last year, and maybe that happens again, but I think the Mets are a freight train right now, and I don't want any part of it.
It's almost like they had the highest payroll in MLB. They should probably be pretty good, I think.
Here's the deal. Who are the last 3 teams left in the National League?
No, I know. You're right. But at the same time, I see people talking about all this Cinderella Mets. I'm like, they had the highest payroll in the MLB. They're not a Cinderella. They should be here.
Spent a bunch of money on Max Scherzer and Verlander.
Not great.
But they spend money. Padres spend money. They're doing well. Dodgers spend money. They're doing well.
When did it go? Just go win it all.
And we'll see if the Royals can get it done.
Yeah.
They got beat at home last night by a team that spends a lot of money. So
Tigers looking good.
Ricketts, let's go.
Last one here. Rafael Nadal announced his retirement at the end of the year. Rafa, top 2 player of all time. Take it or leave it.
Probably going to leave it.
Yeah, that's got to be a leave it.
That Roland Garros record, what was it, 116 and 4?
Yeah, I think he's only maybe 2 or 3 times.
116 and 4. I mean, that's one of the greatest marks in the history of any sport, for sure. But I think Djokovic and Federer, based on the complete nature of their games, would probably rank ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
But I'm not trying to take anything away from Rafa here. He's definitely a top 5 player in my estimation, and what he did on clay is just absolutely ridiculous. So it's amazing that those guys fought Father Time off longer than you would have thought in that sport. I mean, that is a rigorous sport they're playing. When now all these guys are hitting it so hard, and you're playing 4 and 5 set matches that go 3.5–4.5 hours, and it's 1-on-1, and it's crazy they can keep their bodies in that kind of shape. Djokovic does it like he's kind of the Tom Brady method of all that stuff. But congrats to Rafa. That's a pretty good run there. Really hard to believe that 3 of the greatest tennis players of all time all played in the same era. Pretty insane when you think about it. Andy Roddick, Federer, and Djokovic. Is that you're talking about?
Yeah, right. Of course, Andy
Loved
Roddick.
Roddick when I was young.
Great-
Sampras, the true goat.
The great U.S. hope.
Sampras was my goat. Every June, watched him at Wimbledon. Missed any of the show today? Catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you find your sound. Had a lot of LSU and Saints conversation. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow from Lod Cook, same time. Join us on the Hunt Palmer Show.